All right, guys. So what I want to do today is focus on finding the A value today for your quadratic. Now, the last 2 days, you guys have been messing around with quadratic graphs, but I'm hoping that everybody is comfortable with the idea of vertex. All right, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 days. Basically, what I've got here is I've got 2 points here. I'm going to call them A and B. All right, and what I would like to know is find the equation of the parabola that's actually going through these 2 points. Now, the first idea I want you guys to get is when you think about 3, 5, it's somewhere here. That's going to be A. I'm just doing a rough sketch here, guys. 8, 10, that's going to be B. Now, I guess the first question I've got to ask you guys is this. If you have 2 points like this, how many straight lines can you actually form with these 2 points? Just one, right? Because you can really only do this. You can join from A to B. That's it. That's one straight line right there. Now my question is next question is, how many parabolas can actually be formed by using these 2 points? I just wanted to look at the basic ones. Yeah, 2, right? So if you're going to say 2 parabolas, where is your first parabola going to be? Can you tell me where the vertex for the first parabola is going to be? 3, 5. 3, 5? So that means you could say a parabola looks like this. Do you guys agree with that? That's one parabola. And then you could also have a second parabola, but where would the vertex be for that one? 8, 10. So that means that parabola is going to look, I'm just trying to find a nice color here. Let's go with this. It's going to look something like this. Oh, it's too bright. Sorry. This is what happens if someone messes with my... So you've got a second parabola that's actually down where B is actually the vertex. Oh wow, I'm having problems today. Okay, so that's the first thing. We want to establish that there's actually 2 graphs that you can potentially have with these 2 points. There's probably other ones in there, but I'm not really interested in the other ones. I'm only interested in these 2 at the moment, because I know that I can actually come up with 2 equations. So the first step I'm going to ask you guys to do is this. We know that a parabola's general equation is y equals to a x minus h squared plus v. Now I'm going to show you guys what the 2 graphs actually going to look like. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do for A. So for A, the point is 3, 5. Which means my equation for this parabola is going to be y is equal to a, x minus, now h and v, that's the vertex right there. So I can replace it with 3 squared and plus 5. I'm assuming everybody is okay with this so far, what I've done. Okay, this is what we've been doing for the last 2 days, exploring the vertexes. But all this time over the last 2 days, I've been asking you guys to guess and check what the A value is. All right. But what you can do is, instead of guessing and checking, you can actually find out what the A value is. Now, for that, I need to go back to my graph and look at where the green parabola is actually cutting the other point B. So the point B is at 8, 10. So I'm actually going to use the point 8, 10 here, because that's what B is. So when I do this, what happens is that I've got 8 as the x value, 10 as the y value. So now it's a matter of substituting these values and rearranging for me to find out what A is. So I'm going to put down, instead of y, I'm going to write down 10. So 10 equals A multiplied by x. Now x is 8. So I'm going to put that 8 there. And I've got minus 3 squared plus 5. So at this point, I need to rearrange. So the first thing I need to get rid of is the 5. So I've got minus 5 and minus 5. And this ends up being 5 is equal to A, 8 minus 3 squared. Next thing I've got is 8 minus 3 squared. So 8 minus 3 is 5. I'm going to get 5 squared. And of course 5 squared is 25, so I've got 5 is equal to A times 25. So at this point, I want to always have a by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 25. And when I do that, both the 25s get cancelled out on the right-hand side. And I've got a is equal to 5 over 25 as my final answer. And I think that's going to be 0.2. Okay, so that means I've got the equation of this particular parabola. So it's going to look like this. Y is equal to 0.2 x minus 3 squared plus 5. Now guys, I know I'm going through the slides pretty fast, but I'll share a link with you for this particular page, which I think I put up in Google Classroom, but I'll put it up again. You can actually access all these files that I'm actually writing up here in video format and on the notes slide here. But how do we know whether we did the right thing? I think the best way to do that is go back to Desmos. Don't worry guys, I'll go back to that screen shortly. What you can do is go back to Desmos and actually need internet connection. So I guess the way you can actually check whether you got the right answer is by going into Desmos and put your 2 points in first. So I'm going to put down 3, 5 and 8, 10. And then I actually type in my equation to actually figure out whether I got the right answer or not. So I go in y is equal to 0.2 x minus 3 squared plus, was it 10 or 5? Plus 5. And as you guys can see, that graph goes nicely through those 2 points. So that's how you know you actually got the right answer. Is that all right? So that's a really easy way to check whether you actually get your A value correct. If you're unsure, go back to Desmos, put your 2 points, put your equation so that you can actually check whether your A value is correct or not. All right, so what happens if I had chosen B as my vertex? So if I chose B as my vertex, then pretty much it's the same working out because the formula is still going to be the same. And then I've got B is equal to 810. So if B is equal to 810, now my vertex has actually changed. So because my vertex has changed, I can rewrite this as y is equal to A, x minus 8 squared, and plus 10. Do you guys notice that? How the vertex has changed? So that means that in the equation, those two values are going to change as well. Because 8 and 10 was the original h and v now. So the next thing is I have to use the point to actually figure out what the A value is. So I'm going to use point A. So point A was 3, 5. So let's take that out. So point A was 3, 5. And then that's what X and Y value is. So I'm going to write this down as 5 equals A. Now X is 3. Then a different color. And we've got minus 8 squared plus 10. So at this point, we've got to rearrange everything. So we've got to get rid of the 10 first. So we've got minus 10 and minus 10 on both sides. And what we've got is negative 5 equals A. And we've got 3 minus 8, which is negative 5 squared. Now, what I've noticed people do is this. And this is a common mistake people do with negative 5 squared. Really important, guys, that when you do negative 5 squared, you actually put brackets in the negative 5. Because notice what happens if you don't put the bracket. If you don't put the bracket, negative 5 squared ends up being negative 25. All right? But then if you put a bracket in there for the negative 5, see how it's coming out as positive 25? So please remember that anytime you're dealing with negative numbers, especially with brackets, in this case, we've actually got a bracket around it. So make sure in the calculator you put a bracket as well. So what you got then is negative 5 is equal to A multiplied by 25. And then, of course, we rearrange. So we divide by 25 on both sides. And our 25s get cancelled out. And we're left with A equals negative 5 over 25. Now, one recommendation for you guys with A values is if in your calculator you do -5 over 25, it should come out as a nice number, as -0.2. If you get a number that's a recurring decimal, it's actually better to leave the A value as a fraction. Okay? So just remember that when you do A values and it ends up being like a 0.33333, don't write down A is equal to 0.33. Write down A is equal to 1 over 3 because that's what the fraction is. So what I'm talking about is right now, have a look here. So if I go 1 divided by 3, that's the A value. Then please don't write this in decimal format, because when you put it in Desmos, there'll be like slight problems with it where it might not actually go through the points that you require. But if you put it as 1/3, it definitely will. So once we get our A value, of course, don't forget to write the equation of the parabola. So that is what you should have actually got, -0.2 x minus 8 squared plus 10. Again, I want to check whether this is right or wrong. So I'm going to go back into Desmos and I'm going to chuck in the next parabola. So that was y equals -0.2 x minus 8 squared plus 10. And as you guys can see, now that graph is also going through. Maybe I'll just change the colors. Okay, as you guys can see, both of those graphs are actually going through those 2 points. And so guys, that is basically how you come up with the A value. All right, we don't want you to guess and check using the sliders. We want you to actually show us how you can actually calculate the A value, and that's literally how you do it. And I've got both those examples there for you guys to actually work out. Okay, do we have any questions? All right, I'm going to stop this video and then I'll put up the new questions up so you guys can actually have a crack at it. Okay, cool.